Today is Monday, April the 11th, 2011. This is the start of an interview with Mr. Richard Berryman at the RSVP offices of Catholic Services of Macomb, located at 26238 Bryan Road, Warren, Michigan. Mr. Berryman is 88 years old. His birthday is August the 22nd, 1922. Mr. Berryman currently resides at 42667 Christina Drive, Sterling Heights, Michigan. My name is Dave Brousseau and I will be the interviewer. Gary Miglia will be the videographer. Mr. Berryman, would you state for the record the branch of service that you served?
I was in the United States Army. My division was my last division was United States 3rd Infantry Division. Was stationed, it was originated out of state of Washington, and for this war, and then I joined them in Sicily after basic training. Excuse me, after basic training in Georgia.
Let's go back and start out with giving us a little background on your family and where you were born, where you went to school.
All right. I was born in Highland Park, Michigan in 1922. I was raised in Highland Park. My parents are Charles and Beulah Berryman. My mother was Native American, born in the Upper Peninsula. My father came from the county of Cornwall in England and joined a lot of Englishmen in the Upper Peninsula in the copper industry, in the mining industry. I graduated from Highland Park High School, Highland Park Junior College, and attended the University of Michigan. Was drafted 1943, went into the service, and in 1945, in October, I was discharged.
You were drafted.
Yes.
I'm confused of the dates now. You got out of high school.
Well, I was out of high school in 1940.
Okay.
I went to the university. I went to the junior college in Highland Park for 2 years. Then I went to Michigan for 1 semester, and then was drafted in February
How
of
come you didn't get a
1943.
deferment?
Well, I was a hot body at the time. Draftees weren't being deferred at that time. If you mean by being in college?
Yeah.
I wasn't an engineering or a doctoral student.
Oh.
I was in there to become a school teacher.
Okay. I didn't know there was a difference. I thought you got deferred if you went on to college.
Well, I did. I did. I had a 2-week deferment to take the finals. So.
Okay. I mean, as long as you're okay with it, I guess I'll be okay with it. But
Nothing I can do now.
so that kind of defers my next question is why did you get drafted instead of enlisting? And that's, I guess, pretty obvious.
Yeah, I was drafted.
At the time, were you aware of what was going on in the war?
Oh, I sure was. I was 20 years old when I finally went in. I was aware of December 7th and what had happened, and knew that sooner or later I was going to be drafted.
What were you doing then, that day?
Oh,
You remember?
yeah, my good friend and I, George Hall, decided we'd just take a walk and talk, and we found out that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, and we did a lot of discussing and what our lives might be within the next 5 or 10 years.
Were you aware of what Pearl Harbor was? And
Oh yes, yes. In fact, Joe and I visited Pearl Harbor.
did you?
Yeah, we were in Hawaii a few years ago, and that was one of our visits. You see where the Arizona had sunk, and the platform and the honor roll of people that.
It's quite impressive,
Oh,
isn't
it
it?
certainly is. Certainly is. Yeah.
Was Big Mo there too?
No, not at the time.
Because it is now. I don't remember when it got there, but it has a permanent place
Permanent,
now.
no, it wasn't there. No.
Pretty impressive. I've
Oh.
only seen it in pictures.
Yeah. But they'll give you a, what, 20, 30-minute motion picture before you get in a ship and go over to the harbor where the Arizona is sunk. And there's a platform that you walk around and you can see there's still oil
Yep.
coming up from the
Yep.
place. So, yeah, well, that was impressive.
Yeah.
What was more impressive were the number of Japanese tourists that were there.
Yeah, yeah. That I've heard. Yes.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
Well, it's been many years since it happened, and I had a little resentment, but not as much as I had during the time
Yeah.
when the sneak bombing took place. No, I feel sorry for them now for what's happening
Yeah.
with the earthquake, but at the time that we were in Pearl Harbor, I was a little resentment. Yeah, one of the resentments was darn people over there all driving Japanese cars. How come they couldn't get some American cars over there? But that's not the case.
Okay, you get drafted. Was this anticipated?
Oh, yes.
I mean, you
Yeah.
were kind of waiting for it, or?
I waited for it. I knew it was coming, and prepared as best I could.
Uh-huh. So, how big is your family?
Oh, my mother and dad and my sister and I, there were just four of us.
Okay.
But she came from a large family, so I had many relatives.
Your mother?
My mother's
Yeah.
side, yeah. My dad, I think he only went back to England twice from the time that he came over in the early years. I can't remember what time it was that he came, but he and my mother went back and visited a couple of times. In fact, Joe and I were in England, and we went down in the area. I don't think you saw, did you, Joe? Any of my dad's relatives?
No.
No. But I did. I saw a couple of his sisters, and I had tea with them. And they put out all the English delicacies, saffron cake and date bars and little sandwiches and all that. Funny part was my dad and mother made their saffron cakes and saffron buns at home, but when I was in England, they brought the relatives brought out all the goodies, and they said, "Richard, have a piece of saffron cake," and I said, "I don't like it." In retrospect, I look now and I think, "You dumbbell, why didn't you at least take a bite and say,
Yeah.
boy, this is good?" And,
Yeah.
But I didn't, and I regret that I didn't do that. But they were very understanding.
Is your sister younger than you?
No, she's older. She passed away a few years ago.
When you got drafted, what did your parents think?
Well, neither one of them, neither one was happy. I wasn't happy, but it was an obligation, and you did the best you could. You went day to day, and
Was there any fear you were feeling?
no fear in this country when we were being we were getting prepared. But once you got overseas and you got into a combat area,
Yeah.
then every day was a good one that you could get up the next day.
Yeah.
You know, when the basic training that I took was for infantry replacement. And when we got to Casablanca and then went across North Africa to either Tunis or Bizerti, and then we took a ship to Sicily, and I was assigned to a division right off the beachhead. They'd been in there for maybe 30 days, and I was assigned to the 9th Infantry Division, and I wound up with them near Messina, and then we came back. The 9th came back, and they prepared to go to England to become part of the invasion troops.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing we had already been there, been in Sicily, they took a bunch of us out that were replacements and put us with the 3rd Infantry Division, which is the one that I was assigned to, or the 45th Division, which was also part of the Army group that was in Sicily. So we stayed there, and then after the Allies invaded Italy, our division came in 2 weeks later, and that was sometime in September of 1943. And we stayed right on the line right up through early December, and then we were pulled back, and we never got to Casino, which was the big battle forthcoming. They pulled us back and did some more training, and in January of 44 they did the end around. They skipped Casino, which is in the middle of Italy, lower, and they went around to Anzio, which was about 25 miles from Rome, and there we established a beachhead. Almost got thrown off, but then we stayed on, and then the Germans had a ring around us, and we stayed there until we broke out in May of 1944, and then we're on our way to Rome. And I was with the 3rd Division, and we rode on the back of tanks for about 20 miles into Rome on a Saturday, and then Sunday was the 4th of June, and we walked into Rome, and there was no resistance at all. We were greeted beautifully. Flowers and have a wine and that, and maybe 3 hours later they started charging us for
Well, let's go back to your boot again and
Yes.
get some more background on the boot. Where did you go to boot?
Camp Wheeler in Georgia, just outside of Macon.
How did you get there? Was this all train type stuff?
Yes, from Fort Custer. Have you heard of Fort Custer from other fellas? No
Yeah.
doubt. All right, we drafted our local board, went downtown, got on a train and went to Fort Custer, and we stayed there 2 or 3 days. And then we were put on another train and went south down to Macon, Georgia, and then on a siding and then into the camp. And there we stayed for 13 weeks. It was all infantry training.
Now, when you were here to sign up, was it at Fort Wayne?
No,
No?
no, the local draft board in Highland Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they took you down to the Michigan and Central?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
You visited that in one of your trips?
Yeah. I don't want to get ahead of the story, but that was a very important place to me. 2 years, 8 months, and 11 days afterwards,
Yeah.
when I'd been discharged and came home. And there, right near the exit, happened to be my mother, my dad, my sister, and this aunt of mine. And it's the first time I'd seen any of them in almost 3 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, no furloughs, just into the service and overseas.
How'd you feel?
Down, depressed, yes. I was mad because I couldn't get home, but maybe it was best. there'd been a lot of second goodbyes after the first one, and I look back now, it was probably better that I didn't get one. Just get in and get it over with and get home.
Yeah. Okay. What was your basic training like? What can you recall from that?
At the beginning, it was all physical training. Line up in the morning, do calisthenics, and then march.
Yeah.
Did a lot of marching, and then we third or fourth week we got into infantry tactics, and spent nights out in the field digging holes in preparation for what you might run into when you got into actual combat. And after 13 weeks of that,
what determined whether you were going to be in the infantry or something else?
Uncle Sam.
Do you take some tests, or did you? No.
No, I just went right in. I'll say this though: during the basic training, we were given some tests to see whether or not we had a skill to be elsewhere. They gave you ambidextrity tests. They gave you, if you wanted to get into the signal group, they would give you dot dash kinds of tests and how you could do on that. I went before a board because of my educational background. I went before a board to see whether or not I was eligible to go to Officers Candidate School, and I didn't make that, so and I'm glad I didn't, because second lieutenants in the infantry didn't last very long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after the 13 weeks of training, they just put us on another train. And
where'd they ship you from there?
Shenango, Pennsylvania.
And what did that mean?
That meant we were outfitted to go overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Had all the stuff that we needed. Then they shipped us to Newport News, Virginia, which is south of Norfolk, right in that complex. And then we got on a ship.
Yeah, big Navy base there.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, my son was in for 21 years.
Oh my, really?
In the Navy, down in Norfolk, yeah. Interesting, if I can help you on this, when we got on the ship, it was called the Empress of Scotland.
Huh.
It was a British ship, not noted for, well, the quarters were all right, but not noted for their food. Very greasy food, and guys would get stomach upsets. And
you're lucky it floated.
Yeah. Well, it floated down the eastern coast of the United States down to the big bulge in South America. And once we got down there, we had air cover all the way down because it was close to shore. But once we got there, then we zipped right across to Casablanca, and no convoy, all by ourselves.
Oh my, really?
Because the speed of the ship could outrun any submarine.
Yeah, I've heard that before, recently, which was strange because it was in the Pacific theater, but they said we didn't have any convoy because it was a new ship and it was faster.
Yeah.
Of course, it didn't take much to be faster than any sub at that time.
Well, you were glad you could escape.
What was the trip like from when you boarded up in Norfolk down to South America and over to?
It was new. Everything was new. It's something I'd never experienced before.
Get seasick?
No.
Really?
No. Not coming home either. Came home on the Queen Elizabeth.
Did you get rough weather?
No, not on the way over, but on the way back we did.
Yeah. There's nothing, in my view, worse than being seasick. So, you get over to
Casablanca.
Casablanca,
Yeah.
and then you
went across North Africa by train.
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned the 40 and 8.
What was it like in Casablanca? That's always been a
We never,
favorite movie place as being.
we never got off.
Oh, is that right?
No, we were under military control all the time. We went through these places,
Yeah.
but we were not able
All
to
you
stop.
can say is you were there.
We were there. We
Yeah.
were across North Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we had a lot of activities going on in North Africa, didn't we?
Prior, yes.
Prior.
In, I think it was 42 when our troops landed. And they took control finally of the eastern part. No, the western part of North Africa, from Casablanca on over.
Yeah.
And the British were coming from the other way, from Cairo.
Now, this is all prior to the D-Day invasion.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
D-Day didn't come until June 4th of 44.
44.
Right.
Wow, that wasn't long, because you were drafted in 45.
43.
43.
Yeah.
So those things were building up already, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Well,
At the time that you were doing this little activity in North Africa, was there anybody aware that this invasion was coming?
well, you mean the D-Day?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was. We knew it was coming. We knew they were building up for it because everything was going into England. All troops, material, and all that, and we knew it was coming.
So I guess, as well as the Germans, the only thing is, they didn't know when and didn't know where it was going to hit.
No, that's right. That's right. I think the area that I was in was more of a diversionary thing. It took men and material to keep it up, but they wanted to keep Hitler occupied, not only in Europe, but they wanted to make sure that he was keeping us out of the southern part, because Churchill's intent was to go up through Italy and get into the Balkans and give Hitler a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. And there would be one way of defeating him, but the Germans stiffened. The resistance was quite good on their part. Mm-hmm. Caused us a lot of tragedies, a lot of fatalities, a lot of injuries, and but.
Now, there were bombing activities too, going back and forth. B-24s, B-17s, yeah, going from Africa over to bomb in Germany and
in Italy and in the Balkans, where there were oil fields over there, and they wanted to make sure that they could interrupt the flow, or the Allies could interrupt the flow.
As an infantryman, what were they using you folks for? I mean, were there actually battles occurring on the ground?
Yeah. When they had the invasion of Italy, there were 2 American divisions that were almost thrown off the beachhead. The resistance had bad, and we were held back in reserve. Once the beachhead was established, then our people came in, and we took over, and we started to trek northward up through the spine of Italy, the Apennine Ridge. And we stayed, I think I told you, we stayed there from late September through December, early December. But we didn't get to Cassino. That was where the big battle took place afterwards.
Where is the Cassino?
Cassino is in Italy. It's above the boot, above the toe that sticks out. It's above Naples, and it's about 50 miles south of Rome.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's where they put up the big resistance.
Because Sicily's off to the side a little bit.
Sicily it was all done.
Yeah,
All done by September of
Yeah.
44. It was done before that. They were done in August, sometime in August. And
so apparently your progress was to funnel your way up to the boot, to the end of it, and work your way into the next stage, huh?
we got as far as Rome,
Mhm.
our division did, and then we were pulled back. Because the next thing was invasion of southern France. And I was pulled back from my infantry company to division rear. I tell it freely, I had a course in high school of typing, a whole semester typing. And I found out that there was a job opening in division rear that needed a typist. I said, I can type. And
One of the few times that you volunteered.
volunteered, yeah, and I got the job, and I started out typing payrolls for the troops. Then later on, before the war was over, I was in charge of the office. So,
Well, that must have come subsequent to all of these medals that you earned. You want to tell us about the medals?
there was some combat involved in it, but a lot of it is administrative. They gave out medals for conditions like that. I'm proud to say that I got one, but it doesn't compare with kind of a medal that was actually completed in combat. It was administrative skills necessary to keep our outfit going at the time, and that's what these are about.
The Purple Heart, you must have been injured?
Yeah, I got hit. I got hit in the leg on Mount Bignano. I'll never forget the place. It was a battle we were in. We were still chasing the Germans back to the casino, and this involved climbing a mountain, the side of a mountain, to get up to a position that we wanted. And I had either a mortar or an artillery shell land a distance from me, which was lucky for me. And one of the pieces of shrapnel came over and hit me in the leg. It was not an open wound or well, it was open wound, but it wasn't debilitating. All I did was go back to the aid station. They dressed it and sent me back up.
Oh, okay. Then the Combat Infantry Badge?
That was for time served in Italy. I think you can, it's kind of hidden, but it's on this picture right here. This picture right here, it shows the ribbons and the what have you.
Down. Yep.
Our division picked up for their service in France. The French gave us a Fort Roger. It's that piping that's around that shoulder. It was given to every man in the division.
Kind of like slashes
Yeah, well, it's
up here?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that was
That would be right down here, where my thumb is.
Got it.
Can barely, wait a minute, make it out, but
You can see it.
okay. And that was for what?
oh, that was the French gave the
Oh,
division.
okay.
I forgot to mention an incident that happened on our way to Rome. We were following some tanks in this particular battle. We were clearing out a nest of Germans, and I was behind the tank along with the rest of our outfit, and I heard a snap, and and then somebody hollered, "There's a sniper! There's a sniper in the area." So we all took cover until the sniper was found and shot. Well, when we stopped that night for get into our rations, I had a cheese can. It was about that high and about that round. And I had a little hand opener that opened up the can, and when I did, I found a bullet in it. Huh. The sniper had a shot at me, but he hit the cheese can instead of me, because the cheese can was in a pouch on the back of my belt that I carried, with a cartridge belt, and there was the bullet.
Did you save it?
I guess I don't know where it is. Right?
You did save it?
I saved it. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, well, sure. That was that was something else.
While you're walking behind the tank, going through a known hostile area, what's going through your mind? What are you thinking about?
Well, first of all, the objective is to clear out the area, and hopefully clear it out, and with the least amount of shooting at you. I mean, you shot at them, but it was hopefully that you had them neutralized enough that you could get through it. If you get through the day and not get hurt, it was a good day. And that's the way a lot of them were.
Now, these are our tanks.
Yes.
Allied.
Yes.
And they make a lot of noise, so I would guess that maybe it's a little hard to concentrate and be concerned about yourself, but you got a group of people and you're walking through this dense undercover, you know there's snipers, you're still exposed even though the tank, you know, it's like telling the elephant, here I come, you know, that just gotta seem a little scary.
Well, yes.
I don't know.
Every day in combat was a scary day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like today, every day we get up, is it gonna be a good day?
Yeah, I hope so. Right?
Yeah.
Right. I think, I don't know if I related to you earlier or not, if it was on camera. When we broke out from the Anzio beachhead, this is back in Italy now.
Yeah.
When we broke out of the beachhead, and we were riding towards one of the highways into Rome, Mark Clark, and this has been told on many TV programs, his objective with us was to go across the Italian peninsula and hopefully bottle up the Germans that were south of us down in Casino, because they're starting to retreat. But when Mark got to this one area, he decided that he was going to be one of the generals thinking of history in the past that took Rome. So he turned one of our groups and put us on tanks, and we rode on tanks for the last 20 miles into the suburbs of Rome. On a Saturday night, stayed there, and then the next day, we got rid of the tanks, but the next day there was no German opposition, and we went in and occupied our part of the city.
You know, even though it's always seemed strange to me that you go through an area and you say you're in control, but there's really Germans all over the place.
Well, yeah, they were.
So you're kind of going right through them because there's some hiding over here and over. You've just broken up their main force,
right?
And you've now taken over Rome, for example, but there's still got to be Germans around.
They pretty much got out of Rome.
Did they?
Yeah, they headed north, and they found another line of resistance that they
That they
set
could
up.
provide, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I suppose on their behalf, they don't want to be somewhere alone that's occupied by the enemy, so they probably want to get out of there as quick as they can.
Well, it was a losing battle. I mean,
Yeah.
After all the troops they had poured into Casino and all the losses they took, and all the losses the American Army took at Casino, the Germans were glad to get away because the constant bombing from the American artillery was very intense.
Did you ever meet up with a German
Oh yes,
prisoner?
I took one as a prisoner. On our way to Rome, we were clearing out a small town, and the Italian people were all hollering and saying, "There's a Tedeschi, Tedeschi," and I happened to be nearby with my rifle, and I went in and hollered at him, "Hände hoch," or "hands up," and he came out, and we took him prisoner. And
How old is he?
oh gosh, it's hard to say. I've seen old Germans and young Germans.
Yeah,
Yeah, there were older Germans.
yeah.
Excuse anybody that's in their 40s or 50s, but they had people that we considered old.
Wow.
That the Germans had thrown in. They were hurting for manpower
Mhm.
near the end of the war.
Some of them have been pretty young,
Oh yes, yeah,
that they captured, I mean, kids.
yeah, yeah.
So he didn't offer any resistance?
No, he was glad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm out of it.
I'm out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all we did was just send him back to the rear, and
Mhm.
they took care of him from there. You're aware that there were a lot of Germans, POWs, that were in this country during the war.
Yeah,
Yeah, they sent a lot of them over that they captured.
the earlier
Yes,
veteran
Yes.
spoke of working in New Jersey with
but,
prisoners of war.
yeah, and some of them were even detailed to work on farms.
Mhm.
Yeah, they found out that any farming background, or if they didn't, they had manpower, and if you're here, we're going to put you to work.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
So you get to this point where you find this gorgeous job opportunity.
yes, yes, that saved my life. I don't think I'd have gone through combat with that 3rd Division till the end of the war,
Why do you say that?
because I found out the number of casualties they had.
Pretty heavy, huh?
And what was in my outfit, Company B at the time, there just wasn't anybody there that I knew at the end of the war.
Were there opportunities where you could be pulled back and given R&R or?
Yes, on the Anzio beachhead, they had an area they called the rest area. It was in a big pine tree area, and it was looking at the half circle. We were in the lower right side, probably the quietest place on the beachheads, and that's where after we pulled line duty, then they put us back there for maybe 5 or 6 days.
What do you do there?
Relax.
How far are you away from the front?
Well, not far. Yeah, no.
You can still hear the
Oh,
activity?
yeah,
How do you relax?
yeah. Well, they're not shooting at you.
Yeah.
That's a main
Yeah, I
thing.
guess you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
No other activity that you can do there except,
Yeah, with swimming.
no,
Yeah, we're right next to the beach,
no,
and we had an opportunity to go in the ocean 2 or 3 times,
yeah.
which was a good way to get a bath.
What was that? The Aegean Sea or the?
No, let me think now. We gotta,
I just happen to have
Yeah.
a map.
Yeah, I could point it out to you, but
Well, it would have been the
Mediterranean?
Well,
Part of the Mediterranean?
the Med that flows through there, but it would have been the, they call it the Turtleman Sea.
Never heard that.
Okay,
Yeah,
here's the Turtleman
yeah.
Sea.
All right, we were right here. We were in whatever that says right there.
Turtleman Sea.
Yeah, yeah,
And the Med is over here.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you're probably in the Turtleman Sea, and
Yeah, see where Rome is.
the Asiatic that I mentioned is over on the other
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of shark and alligators in that water. So you moved back, how far back when you took over the administrative activity?
Well, at the time, we were in a little town just south of Naples. It was called Pizzoli, and our division headquarters was there, and that's where I was transferred from my line company. We were about 5 miles away from there, and I got transferred back to this division job. Had a place to sleep at night on a cot that I hadn't been on in a long time.
Were you far enough away that?
Oh yeah,
you
well,
were
no,
relaxed?
there was still bombing going on. They
Yeah.
used
Oh,
to
yeah.
bomb the harbor in Naples because our supply ships came in there.
Yeah,
The only thing I remember about the town of Pizzoli was that an Italian movie star came out of there. And now I can't think of her name.
oh, Gina Lollobrigida.
Lola Brigida, yeah. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
from Pizzoli, Italy.
Did any of the entertainment troops get out to you?
Glad you mentioned it, yes. There was a time on our way, we were going up the Italian peninsula. We were pulled back for a day, and there was a USO troop that came up near the front lines to entertain us. And I don't know if you remember, big entertainer was Al Jolson.
Yeah,
And his, you know,
Yeah.
his mammy stick, but
Yeah.
he entertained us. He was rather ribald in the jokes that he told, but heck, the guys loved it.
yeah, any kind of entertainment was probably a good diversion.
Yeah, yeah. After I got back in the division rear, I did have a chance to see the version of This Is the Army. It was a play that was put on, and it was done in a theater near Rome, and a USO troop came in and put it on, and it was a safe area because we had a lot of generals there. Because I'm not anti-officer, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the way it is.
yeah,
You're gonna let some generals, you're gonna be damn sure there's not gonna be any activity there.
yeah.
So you never got a chance to see Bob Hope and his group, eh?
No, I didn't. No. I saw enough of him on TV afterwards,
Yeah.
all the places that he'd gone to.
Yeah.
But no, I never saw him in our area at all.
So how long did you stay now at this administrative position?
Right to the end of
Yeah.
the time was discharged.
Well, let's go back. Before you transferred, you're on this, going through the countryside, clearing out
Yeah,
enemy
that's
nests.
on the way to Rome.
Right,
Yeah, and then I told you how we rode the tanks into
Yep.
Rome.
yep,
And then after Rome, they pulled us back
okay,
to Naples again.
yeah,
And then it was from there that I was transferred into the division rear.
okay,
And meanwhile, the army, or the division, was preparing for invasion of oh gosh, I gotta get my facts straight now. For southern France.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah, that was it, southern
So
France.
we're still not at D-Day yet,
Oh, no. no.
okay.
No, August of 44
Yeah,
is when.
June 6th.
No, I'm talking about southern France.
Okay,
June the 4th was Rome, we took Rome. June the 6th was D-Day.
right.
Then August of 44 is when we landed in southern France.
All
If you
right.
look at your map, you can see
Yep.
a pincher movement
Yeah.
coming, us from the
Yeah,
south.
right.
And we joined up near a French town called Mulhouse, Mulhouse. And that's where it became a solid line then.
Yeah. Well, what was it like every time you moved into another town? Must have been a ticker parade, eh?
Well, there's two sides of that. There's the side when you're in combat, when you go into a town.
Yeah.
There's not much celebration. But then when I was in the rear, the celebration was the fellows that were up ahead of us during the combat, and we came up in the rear. And what they gave us was a nice place to stay, which is something that when you're in combat, every night was different.
Yeah.
You know.
But you see pictures of the tanks and the trucks coming through and everybody waving and
Yeah.
soldiers on the foot soldiers handing out chocolate
Oh,
to the
yeah,
kids.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, that happens.
yeah.
But you're not there that long.
Really?
You're just moving right through.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're excited because they're free
Yeah, oh, yes.
of whatever suppression
Yeah.
they were under while they were there, I'm sure.
Yeah, the interesting part of what you're referring to is the kind of reception that you met in Germany. Once the German border was crossed and the division was advancing, of course we would advance in the rear along with them, not up front but far enough back. But here we'd go through these towns and we were met with glares.
Oh, really?
Hatred. Oh yeah.
I'm sure they got plenty of
They-
fill-in from their,
But
just like the Japanese, they all thought we were cannibals and,
well, what they didn't like was the bombing, the intense bombing. You bombed a lot, and the more you bombed, supposedly the easier it was to get to your objective. I mean, reduced your casualties, which you would have, but still still.
it takes its toll on
Oh,
people
yeah,
that are
they-
the innocent.
They didn't like it, no.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't like it. And once the war was over in May of 45, our division had gone down into the Frankfurt area and got up into Berchtesgaden, where Hitler had his mountain retreat. And I never got up there. After the war was over, there was times when we could have taken a Jeep and gone up and looked, but we weren't that interested. We saw enough pictures of it.
Did you ever run into our friend Patton and his group?
We were part of his group for a while.
Yeah.
In fact, when Joe and I were on this Normandy trip, we were in Luxembourg, and that's where he's buried.
Mm-hmm.
And he's buried facing his troops. He's all by himself, and all the troops that were expired that died during the battle were there, and here's Patton up here facing them.
Isn't that just like Patton?
Yeah. We had I know this is not a war experience, but this is something that occurred afterwards. Joe and I wanted to see what Normandy was like. The various Utah beaches and I can't think of the big one.
Omaha.
Omaha Beach, yeah. And we were with a tour group, and the people that ran the tour group had many years of experience of running these tours, and one of the deals was with, they had in their group, if they had a veteran, and when they got to Omaha, they got there early enough in the morning, and they had 2 flagpoles, and there were 3 of us that were veterans, and I got 1 flagpole, and the other 2 got the other, and we raised the flag at Omaha Beach that particular morning. I have a picture of it at home, and very proud of it.
How'd you feel about that?
Oh, I felt real good.
All that old stuff all coming back again?
It came back, but just the idea that here were all the American bodies in this cemetery, and I still was alive, and I still had the privilege of raising the American flag that day. It was a very patriotic.
We interviewed a vet a while back. Came in here, full regalia, his whole uniform. That sucker couldn't have been any taller than this, black, and a booming voice. And he had his suit of armor on, and 82 stripes over here, and he was responsible for supplying ammunition and gas for Patton's group.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, you're in a war and your job is supplying explosive ammunition and gasoline to Patton's tanks? That's all he did. Yeah, he says, I talk to him often.
That was very important. Because
Surely.
without it, the
Sure.
tanks wouldn't move.
But talk about wow, and he had spent, I don't know, 30, 40 years in the Army.
Well, they, you know, the Army was still somewhat segregated, even during the war. And it was jobs like that felt that the black
Nobody else wanted.
Yeah.
He loved it. I mean, he was in charge, boy. He was. And I'd asked him point blank. I said, "Have you ever met Patton?" He said, "Sure. I talked to him lots of times." He said he was okay to me. I'm sure, as long as he provided the gasoline. Patton didn't give a darn what color it was.
That's right.
As long as you gave me the stuff I needed, and I imagine following him was a treat to begin with.
No, it was an exhausting job. They were on the road all the time.
Yeah.
Their job was to get the gas up there.
These big trucks.
Yeah.
Go back now to your ship back to your new kingdom to run. Were you able to keep track of the progress of your group as it went along?
Yeah, we had reports that we could read from the division headquarters. Their number 3, G3 is what they call it. It was there.
All right, I don't know what it's like when one day you wake up and the war's over. Is there a big bomb that goes off, or how is this? How did you find out the war's over, and what caused that to happen?
Well, the Russians got there first, and then we were close to Berlin, and Hitler killed himself, and the German people had had enough, and leaders at the time after Hitler just said, "That's it, let's quit," and they signed a treaty, and
so
that was it.
Did it happen right away when they? Because I don't even know how long it took them to figure out Hitler really killed himself.
Well, I don't know.
I suppose they're still arguing that. But
yeah, but he was gone. There was no leadership, and, and whoever was second or third in charge took over.
So you hear this. How do you feel about that?
Well, one of the things that happened while I was in this job was that once in a while you'd get what they call R&R. You've heard that statement, rest and rehab. And I had a chance for R&R to get away from the office for a while, and I took it. And you can't guess where I was when the war ended. In Nice, France, right along the coast, Nice and Cannes, the big beach area, the big millionaires retreat. The Army took over Nice for the enlisted men and Cannes for the officers. So there was no saluting in our area, and if there was an officer there because he was on duty, you'd walk right by him, you didn't have to salute him. And that's where I was when the war ended.
So tell us how you felt about that.
Exhilarated, wonderful, glad it was over. And then I went back to my outfit.
Were you aware this was coming? It was just a question of getting the final dictate.
You know, you were pretty well kept informed of what was going on. You'd get it from your officers who would get it from division headquarters and pass the information along. If you were able to, you'd get an Army a newspaper, the Stars and Stripes.
Yeah.
And the big gun at the time writing for them was Andy. What's Andy? He's on 60 Minutes.
Andy Rooney?
Andy Rooney?
Andy Rooney was the big reporter for the Stars and Stripes. And he wrote a lot about what was going on. So you were pretty well kept informed.
So what's the order of the day now? The war's over, so now what's going to happen?
Back in the office, and we're starting to get a feel that we're going to be out of here pretty soon.
Out of here? What's out of here mean?
Out of Europe and back home.
Oh, out of that far, eh?
Oh yeah.
Because there's got to be some kind of stationary troops that are there.
Yeah, well, we weren't. What happens, remember the war ended in May, but still there was Japan. And Japan didn't capitulate until August.
Right.
And then it started. After Japan surrendered in August, August 13th or something like that, I was back home and discharged in October.
But when the war was over in Europe, there was talk of sending troops to the Pacific theater.
That's correct.
I don't know how many went, if any, but I remember the interviews we've had.
None.
They were scared because they didn't want to.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. I mean,
Yeah.
but you didn't get out until October of '45.
That's right.
That's not that long, but at that point,
From August until October.
where did you get shipped?
Got shipped to England and Liverpool, and came home on the Queen Mary. No, Queen Elizabeth we came home on. There
And
were
that what, New York?
15,000 troops on that.
New York?
Yep. New
So-
York, Camp Dix, Camp Atterbury, so long, I'm home.
So, when does your family find out you're coming home?
When I landed in New York,
Mm-hmm.
I called them, and then I called them from Camp Atterbury and said, I'm catching a train to Chicago, I'll be in Detroit at
So at that point, they
1:30.
didn't even know you were back in the States.
Well, they had an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 5 days on the water.
What was it like coming into New York? Was there any big celebrations?
Yes, on ship.
Yeah.
We all got to one side to see the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, yeah.
That was the big deal. And all cheered and hollered, and
Uh-huh.
that meant we're glad to be home.
But when you get into the dock, there's nobody waving flags and,
Well, not that I could see. It's a big ship,
yeah.
and
Well, I mean, a lot of people should have known how many troops are coming home.
well, we got off and they put us on a car ferry and went across to New Jersey to go down to Fort Dix. And that's where we saw people going to work every day. The slip we pulled into was all troops, and here were the civilians going to work. And there was some nasty, not nasty, but not so nice things that were said.
Really?
Said, well, yeah. The men were practicing their French. And that's enough. I won't go
Okay,
any
I'm
further
with
on
you,
that.
I'm with you. I didn't know the words. Been there, heard that, yeah, okay. So what are you feeling now? I'm sure there's a buildup here of anticipation of,
I'm very happy to be home. I'm not happy with the number of wars that we had, because this is supposed to be one of those wars to end all wars again. And we've had into our third or fourth one right now. Not happy with that. I'm awful happy that that I'm still alive. I'm
sure.
Relatively good health. I still have something up here, and old age hasn't got me yet for that.
for a lot of returning servicemen, leaving the war zone, if you might, and coming back to maybe civilization, is that conversion difficult to make?
No. I just had to be careful of my vocabulary for a while.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I've interviewed a number of Vietnam people, and the conversion was very difficult for a lot of these people.
Now that's regrettable.
I mean, they spent enough time
Right.
where somebody was always shooting at them, and all of a sudden you come back into a different world, and it's hard to make that conversion. Some never made it. And I just wondered whether, I suppose for some, depending on their circumstances, that might have been hard, but
You mean the Vietnam, or
Well,
for World War II?
Yeah.
No, I didn't find it. I found
some
it.
might have, but
Yeah, I had no trouble. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to go back to school. Once I got
so that
back.
was on your mind.
Oh, yes. Go
All right,
back.
take us through that routine. You got the GI Bill,
Yep.
and did you get the, is it 5220? I heard that, I don't know, when we heard about a month ago? That's the first time I'd ever heard of that.
Yeah, we got the work, I guess you want to call it now workman's compensation.
Yeah.
It's $20 a week.
Wow, but
Yeah.
that must have been pretty big
Oh,
money
yeah.
then.
The other thing was the GI Bill was
Yeah.
wonderful
Oh, for everything.
for everything. Yeah.
Buying a house where you probably couldn't have,
You
and,
know, going back to school was the main thing for the GI Bill for me.
now, that wasn't hard to convert from where you were in war to going into a classroom?
Oh, it was difficult my first semester back.
Yeah. Every time someone dropped a book on the floor, you're scurrying for cover, and,
Not so much that. It's every time somebody said, "Let's have a party," that was very hard to overcome for that one semester.
yeah.
But then when I got my grades and found out I was in difficulty, then I just snapped right to it the
Yeah.
next time.
When did you meet your bride-to-be?
When I had my first teaching job in Highland Park.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be what, 25 now?
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, she was a phys ed teacher,
Uh-huh.
and I was teaching history,
Mhm.
and we met. And,
Bingo, right away?
Well, no,
No?
it took 3 years.
Oh,
But that's all right. I hadn't settled, I had to settle down.
Yeah.
I had to think about the future, and
so you used the GI Bill to get your education.
Right.
Did you buy a house?
later on, when Virginia and I got married, yes.
Yeah.
But not through the VA or anything.
No?
No. My VA was this aunt that I wrote to.
Oh.
She gave us the down payment, which of course we paid her back. But
Uh-huh.
that was my VA.
Well, how many children did you have?
2.
2?
No, excuse me. 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
How many boys?
1 boy, 2 girls.
Mhm.
Two
And
in
what are they doing now?
Well, one's in Orlando, the other's in Point St. Lucie, and Jeffrey's back in Norfolk after his stint in the Navy. He's working for a company that's doing all Navy work and getting paid better. And Jen is a speech therapist, and my daughter Leslie has worked in selling office supplies and as a salesperson, going around visiting companies. And
Any grandkids?
2,
Two?
but I have 8 now with our second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my first wife had Alzheimer's, and
Oh,
yeah,
boy. How old was she?
good.
She was 71.
In her 70s.
Oh, gosh, that's
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
And you met Joe where?
Joe and I knew each other for at least 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Her husband worked at Fitzgerald, same as I did.
Oh.
And
Is that the one at 9 Mile
yeah.
Van Dyke? Really?
Yeah.
That's where I started my college career at Macomb.
Oh, did you?
That building right out behind it, and we used the school.
Yeah, I retired out there in 1979,
Goodness.
and that Joe's husband was athletic director,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a heart attack,
Wow.
and that was 3 or 4 years prior to my wife dying.
Mm-hmm.
And after she died, Joe and I were at a wedding of a colleague's kid, and we sat at the same table and got talking, and
Mm-hmm.
things happened from there. We started going together, and
Things happened.
The rest is history.
the rest is history. Right?
The rest is history.
Yeah, this was 93 till now. That's how long we've been together.
Wow. Good. And you assumed 8 more or 5 more? You said we now have
We
8.
have 2, so we have 10 altogether.
We have 10
10.
altogether.
And
Yeah.
how many grandchildren do you have then with them?
I have 8. He
8?
has 2. So.
He has 2.
Yeah.
10, wow. Any great-grandchildren? No?
Not even close.
We gotta get busy on this. You gotta become great-grandpa yet, you know?
Well, they got to go to school. One's a college kid, he's in his 20s, but education is foremost in his
Oh,
mind
sure,
right now.
without a doubt,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Well, have you had enough of me?
No, really. It's been a very interesting story.
I don't want to interrupt, but I'd like to add something. When we were visiting, when we went on the Normandy trip, and he had his World War II cap, I stopped counting how many people would come up and say to him, "Were you in World War II?" And he'd say yes, and they'd say thank you, and just keep walking.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
How'd that make you feel?
Just really proud.
Yeah, I'm sure it would. I'm sure it would. And that they would remember that
Yes,
long.
yes. And you always hear, French people are not receptive and not friendly, and it's they're difficult to travel in France. We never found it that way. We've been there twice, but particularly in the Normandy area, they would, just many people came up and just said thank you.
Do you wear your hat or anything that would
No.
identify you as a vet when you were there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Yeah,
the
that's
purpose
why
of it.
Yeah.
They would
But-
recognize.
But this stays in the closet. I don't wear this out. I wear the M Michigan hat.
Now, I imagine you've heard this story before,
Yes,
many times.
a few.
What do you think about it?
I was a little younger, and I can remember, incidents in World War II so clearly. And it was just an incredible time and such patriotism.
Yeah,
Every week my mother would give us all money to buy the stamps, and then you would get a book full and you'd get a war bond. Collect tin foil, even gum wrappers, foil, and
yeah, I remember those. Yeah. Was your husband in the service? Your first husband?
Yes, but he was in during the Korean
Oh.
conflict. However, my oldest brother was in the Pacific in World War II. He was on an
Oh.
aircraft carrier. And
Do you remember which one?
USS Intrepid, it's a
Oh
museum.
my
in
goodness,
New
I
York
know the
now.
Intrepid. That's the one that senator from Arizona, where it almost blew up.
Mhm.
What's his
Several-
name?
From Arizona, McCain?
McCain, yeah. He was
Several,
a fighter pilot in that.
several times during the war, it was reported bombed,
Yeah,
or they did experience many kamikaze attacks, and however, their demise was
so
not
you had a
complete.
brother in.
Yes,
Why can't we talk with him?
he's in Midland.
Why can't we go to Midland, Anna?
Road trip.
Road trip, road trip.
Road trip.
Can we wait till the weather's a little bit, you
It
know,
sounds
so it's
like
real
that would
nice?
be a very interesting,
Oh, yeah, Ted, yeah.
very interesting interview to talk to someone that was on the Intrepid,
He,
particularly World War II.
he's quite a talker, it would probably take
Well,
Does he come down to visit?
we got plenty of
From time
time.
to time?
occasionally. Occasionally, he's having difficulty with eyes, he has macular degeneration, so he doesn't drive, but his wife does.
Boy, that'd be neat. I'd
Yeah.
certainly like to talk with him.
Yeah, yeah, we would.
I'll tell him.
We have a huge budget for marketing our program. And it really comes down to people like you helping us sell it.
Yeah, it's a budget with lots of zeros. No other digits, just
We
zeros.
don't get much press. We put these big articles up and they come out as little snippets in the paper, and
Understand?
I have a friend who was a flyer in Vietnam, and I got him interested, who got me into another, and now to a third, so we're trying to use those who
Right.
find this worthwhile to help us
I also
find.
have a brother that was in the Vietnam War and retired as a colonel in the Strategic Air Command,
Oh, really?
and has been very active in, what was, Memorial. They live in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, and he was active in establishing a war memorial.
Yeah, down there.
We went and,
We got one coming in the next couple of weeks who was POW in Vietnam, and he's a colonel, and that gets to a very small group of people. They probably know each other and don't even realize it.
right,
So, thank you, Joe, for your contribution there. Well, that gets us back to Michigan and Central. Boy, that must have been
Yeah.
an exciting
Well,
moment.
you mentioned it says, how was your reunion with your family? And I wrote a note down there after almost 3 years, it was very emotional.
I'm sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Your mom must have been so tickled.
My mother wrote me every day.
Every
regardless.
day?
Every day,
Oh, my goodness.
yeah,
Bless her heart.
yeah. Sometimes I get a stack of mail like this, you know, it's delayed and
Yeah,
routed.
yeah,
And,
yeah. Wonderful.
Wonderful.
I had one guy told me when he went home, he got home, his mom cried for 4 days.
Oh. No.
She went in the back room and sat down and said the rosary every day and cried. She was so happy.
My folks were happy, very happy. My sister was happy.
I
And-
imagine.
And my dear aunt, the female lady, was awful happy.
How nice that she could contribute to the GI Bill, eh?
Yeah.
So you spent your career at Fitzgerald?
No, I taught in Highland Park from 48 to 52 and came to Fitz in 52 and retired in 79. And I've been bumming around ever since.
79, let's see. I was at Fitz, 1963 to about 62 to 64 at Macomb.
At Macomb, but you had your classes at Fitz.
At Fitz,
Yeah.
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 And they were at night.
Yeah.
But frequently, we had the Fitz faculty teaching the classes,
You're right.
obviously. We didn't have our own building yet.
No.
And
They also had classes over at the Lincoln School in Van Dyke.
yeah,
Lincoln Van Dyke.
yeah.
In fact, Wally, whatever his last name is, was very,
Walter Bradley.
that's
Can
it.
you believe that name just popped up? Walter Bradley.
Walter was very instrumental in starting.
Absolutely he was.
Yeah,
There was a group of us kids that went together to help them raise the money for that first campus in the back, you know. And Ice, Orva Lee Ice was the history teacher.
Oh,
Friend of Joe's.
Jay Ice.
Yeah.
And his wife Jean, I taught with his wife Jean.
I'll be darned.
yeah, poor Jay passed away a year or two ago.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he was not well when I was there, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm about done. I don't know about you.
I don't know what else I can ask you.
Taken an hour and a half or an hour and a quarter of your time, and but it's been.
I'm heavily compensated, so don't worry.
Well, that are we off yet?
No,
Well, you know, you talk about budget. Is there? Can I make some kind of a contribution to your budget?
bless you, my child. Yes, you can.
All right, I've got your address.
Uh,
I can't promise you a heck of a lot, but I can promise you something.
Yeah, we're sponsored in Macomb by RSVP, which is the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. And so, in fact, I have a couple of forms for your relatives if they're interested in it. I was going to print out a brochure, and I actually, on the back of one of the cards, I actually printed the address. So if they want
Okay.
this in the back, so if you do want to make some kind of a donation,
Yes.
you can make it out to RSVP, because we don't have our own,
Oh, okay.
you know,
All right.
our own account or anything like that, but then they'll take care of that for us, but, yeah. And we thank you very much